Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religions. Today we're doing another episode of the Coherent Bible. Welcome anyone who comes in, and welcome anyone who should ever watch this in the future. So, future you, hello. How are you? We were at Genesis 5:6. I'm returning back just a little bit to Genesis 5:5. And here we go. We wrapped up the last episode with Genesis 5:5, and all the days that Adam quickened. This word quickened right here means perfected, specifically perfected, having their eventual perfected physical body, which means, time in heaven, those kinds of things. The number 930 years, since there are numbers that do not make sense as numbers, I'll give a quick for instance. There's a number in the Bible that to the King James was translated 103, 1811. But the 100 there has to mean 100. It can't mean 1,000 or 10,000. So it's a nonsensical number, but all of these numbers have meanings. Through the rest of this set of lineage of Adam that begins here with 5:5, I'm not going to read the names, but what the names mean. And I'm not going to read the numbers, but what the numbers mean. Now, I did write them down. They're pretty darned inconsequential because it's not a person's name nor how long they lived. And reckoned that way cannot make sense for many of the numbers, where they simply left off parts of it, like in the number I quoted, 103, 1811. For the King James, they just left off the 18 and the 11. They just did not include it. So they kind of under-translated those numbers, and in this case, in this set of lineage, they under-translated the names. They wrote the Hebrew names. That's like saying, George to the Mikey to the Elizabeth. It doesn't mean anything. But if you actually translate these things into their proper, correct meanings, there is a continuous storyline that I think you're easily going to see. And all the days of the emotional animal perfected were years of transitioning God-elected calling life, and he passed on to something else. It doesn't say what the something else is. And him of emplaced substitutionary compensation was quickened godly elected gracious life, years of a godly elected gracious life, and begat him from desperately wicked man. You'll notice these names are actually describing situations of a singular person. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And him of emplaced substitutionary compensation was quickened after he begat him from desperately wicked man, years of an above perfect, God-elected, perfected life. Yes, that's overstated. And begat family building block sons and childbearing daughters. Now, those are the actual definitions of when you see in the text son, it actually means family building block son, and daughter means childbearing daughter. And this is talking about how they add to their own family. And all the times of him of emplaced substitutionary compensation, 912 years, which translates to mean transitioning God-elected authoritative life, and he passed on to something else. And him from desperately wicked man was perfected or quickened or vivified in years of a judged life, and he begat him of a nested position. And him from desperately wicked man had years of an above perfect God-elected resting life, and begat family building block sons and child bearers. I don't know if I'm even going to read all of these because they're getting a little repetitive. But I think it's important to note what's going on here. It's talking about a first having a child who is important for what they do, and is referred to as him of emplaced substitution or substitutionary compensation. This is a description of the hero of the story. He's emplaced to be a substitution and compensate for something. In the Christian text, this is referring to Jesus. But then if I read the next one, him from desperately wicked man, meaning he is not a desperately wicked man, but comes from then, again, that's a description of Jesus. Him of emplaced substitutionary compensation. Sorry, I just read that one. What's the next one? Him of nested position. Him praised of God and thought a fool. Let's see, what's the next one? Him praised of God but thought a fool, had a son. Him of descent being humbled. All of these work to describe the life of the hero, and without fail. And the father is always very, very blessed. And then the son, the next generation, is also equally blessed in good and godly things. And it just keeps going on like that. Like mature man of a dart sent forth. To be mature here literally means to be perfectly mature, of a full measure, not childlike in any way. So not immature in any way. Dedicated through inauguration. What's the next one? Let me scan here. Oh, him of powerful weapon use. That would be referring to the weapons of truth, the ability to tell the truth. And he lives years of a perfected, God-elected, enduringly free, unified life. Now, where does this change? Because it keeps going like that for several iterations. And I think you get the idea. It changes when it starts dividing and starts naming individual sons along with the hero. Now, sons is a general term, not meaning necessarily male, but should be more like they and them. And actually, the names do translate that way. And here's where it changes. It changes with the story of Noah, the giver of rest, which is literally what his name means. Throughout the Bible, the giver of rest is the Father, the one who offers heaven the time of rest, the Sabbath day, the day of rest, the 1,000 years first in heaven. So the giver of rest is in a years of a gracious God-elected life when he begats or has born to him of appointed name. That's what Shem means. Him of the appointed name of conspicuous position. To be thorough. And also the name Ham, they who grow warm. Growing warm as in getting used to an idea, growing warm to a situation. And Japheth, which means them open to persuasion. So these two groups, grew warm and open to persuasion, are going to be fundamental in the rest of the story, as well as, him of the appointed name. And we have a topic change. So I'm going to return to StreamYard and say hello to people who just suddenly showed up out of nowhere. Hello, human beings. I want you to know I love you all. I truly, truly do. Someday you'll know that for certain. Mac the Human, Kevin Chaos, Iger Television. Thank you all for coming by. Do any of you have any thoughts at this point about this translation where I didn't skip the names and numbers, but actually translated them? So it's literally a more thorough translation. And where certain numbers in the Bible cannot be numbers because they are not numbers, you can't have the idea of 100 in the place of 10,000. In the numerical sequence where it should read 10,000, it reads 100. And then just drop the numbers that don't make sense considering the 100. But in the King James, it's literally what they did. And by the way, the King James in the second to the last paragraph reads, don't drop a word out of this and don't add a word to it, which is exactly what I'm doing. I'm actually following that advice. There is nowhere where I am interjecting an idea, and there's nowhere where I'm leaving an idea out, not in any way, which is how I know this is a more direct and accurate translation than anything that exists that I can find on the planet. There might be something that exists I have not found. I don't know. And the meanings of those numbers, meaning how they are presently enjoying blessings from God. That's what those numbers almost always mean. There are some numbers that mean negative things, but it wouldn't apply to the lineage under Jesus in Genesis 5:5 to the end of Genesis 5. Those things are not there. And Genesis 5, let me get to it. And 8 and 5. Starting with Adam and going through to Noah. And Noah is where the change happens. And with the change of Noah comes the identification of the three kinds that are involved in the story. Him of the appointed name, of conspicuous position, a singular male significant, that would be hero. Those who grow warm, that is, grow warm to the situation and come to understand, although they were confused at first. And them who are open to persuasion. That means those who were staunchly against these ideas, such as an anti-theist might be, but is logical and open to persuasion and does accept argumentation. Of course, if you don't either accept right off the bat, that is, you're already a religious person who is open-minded and accepts the new paradigm, or you grow warm as a total category, or you are open to persuasion, then there's no chance of ascension except for within those three groups. So those are the three major groups. Of course, him of appointed name has a time in his testimony of 3.5 years, which is the second half of end times, which is why you have to fall into one of those two categories if you're still there, and he's going to help you. That is, you haven't yet accepted what is obviously in your face. And I hope, well, I understand and believe that almost all do grow warm or were open to persuasion in the first place. Moving on then. Questions, challenges. I have a show in about another, looks like 20 minutes. So I'll entertain you guys for about 15 of that, smoke a cigarette, start the other show. Having a guest on tonight promises to be intelligent and cordial, at least in writing he is so far. I started listening to the Book of Jubilees. It is crazy the amount of detail that is in there. Yeah. You know, Iger, I find it true that the Bible directly translated has no fluff in it. None of these stories actually across the planet have any fluff. Every single word has meaning and cannot be ignored. The density of information within the Bible, well, it doesn't rival DNA, but by golly, for a piece of literature, it's pretty crazy. Yes, Iger. Yes, absolutely. The amount of detail for Genesis. Yeah. Any other comments, thoughts, questions, challenges, expression of belief that you think I'm insane? Whatever you want to say is fine. KJV is the only version I am familiar with, so I am learning as we go. Kevin Chaos, thank you for trying to be an honest person. For goodness sakes, that's hard for most of us, and congratulations, kudos to you. The KJV is based on the Greek lexicon, which is what this is a direct translation of that I'm reading to you. Okay? In fact, most of the modern Bibles are based on the Greek lex. So even no matter which one you read, even if they were changed to suit the doctrine and dogmatic views of any given church, they're actually all based in the same work, which is why I went back to that work to get the words that are actually there, and then I used a non-religious and set of definitions for those actual Hebrew words, and also the Strong's exhaustive concordance to confirm, and also comments by Jusinius to make sure that I really get it. And I do that with every freaking word that you see on this screen right here, and many you cannot see on this screen right here, which is really a labor of love, and I don't mind it. Don't take it as I'm complaining. I'm not complaining. It's a privilege to even have this idea and be able to represent it in a reading frame that makes sense without magic. And yes, there's no magic in the Bible. Sorry, you Christians, but there's no magic in there. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up so I can get to the other thing. But I want to thank you all again for dropping by. I appreciate your input always. If something strikes you ever, comment under the video, email me personally. I would feel privileged to respond to your specific brain. And here's why I want to do that. Your brain is not mine. I cannot tell what your brain needs without you telling me. So, out of respect for the brain that is the real you, I will do my best to answer to anything that you have to say. Truly, I will. Even right now, for about 30 more seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Peace and respect to you all. I want you all to know that I truly do look forward to the day. Wait a minute. Iger wrote, check out the first two chapters. Chapter 2 is the 6 days of creation. I will check that out, Iger, because you're being extremely kind, and why shouldn't I trust you that it's worth looking at? I'll go and look at that. Kevin, we can schedule a one-on-one anytime you say. I'm semi-retired. I work 2 days a week. Those are Thursdays and Fridays. You say something aside from that, and I'll be there. In fact, you say something late evening, Thursday or Friday as well, I'll be there. All you need to do is peace and respect, rebuke and reprove. I see you posting watermelons all over the place. How about a reference? What does watermelon mean? Type this real fast. There you go. That's my personal singular only and true email that I've been using for years and years and years. And you are welcome to it. I capitalized the G in Gmail. I have no idea why I did that. Richard Curtis Madsen at Gmail. That's correct. If you use that, should be a link on your side. It's not a link in StreamYard, but it should be a link where you're seeing it on YouTube. Feel free to use it. I will be as upfront and honest with you as I can possibly muster. And even when and not you specifically, Kevin, but others have, Even when people were dishonest and trying to be degrading and insulting to me, I still did my best to power through that and be kind and loving to them, because I am firmly convinced that you all will be angels, and I should treat you as such. Of course, an angel who's being a jerk is just an angel being a jerk. An ironic reference to his alleged racism. Okay, watermelon would be good for use that way, I suppose. It could be that. I'd rather hear from you, Jesus' Lord, though, on what you're saying, because your brain is not mine. And although Kevin may be right, Kevin's brain is not yours either. So I'd rather hear you comment. But for now, peace and respect to you all. Have a great night. And I truly do look forward to the day that we're all great friends. Later.